Story 1. It may not have been a heartthrob, but when I was a grad student teaching at the university, I still found myself the object of affection for some freshman girls. At first, I suspected it might be all about them trying to score better grades, but these girls were both nerdy and pretty. They were already acing their studies. One of them even started calling me doctor, until I clarified that I didn't have a PhD. Then she switched to prof, and I had to remind her that I was just an instructor, but she cheekily asked if I'd mind if she still called me professor. Then she followed it up with an invitation for a drink. I decided to keep it professional and told her to ask again once the class was over if she was serious about it. As it turned out, she was, and she insisted on calling me professor. It was quite the unexpected win for a guy who looked like a catcher's mitt. What a tease. That girl seems really interested in that sort of relationship. Story 2. I might not be much to look at now, but back in the mid-90s, I was quite a handsome guy. I was working at a Catholic high school during the peak of my best hairstyle and sporting a trim size 28 waist. Those days are long gone. On my very first day, a group of giggling teenage girls had their heads together, whispering and stealing glances in my direction. One brave soul eventually approached me and stuttered, "Hello, sir. Just one question, please. Are you, married?" She was blushing like a traffic light. So there you have it. A bunch of teenagers were secretly hoping I was unattached. What they planned to do if I was single, I can't say, but they were definitely smitten. On another occasion, I was strolling down a never-ending school hallway, vaguely aware of a group of girls trailing behind me, exchanging hushed comments. It wasn't until I overheard one of them exclaim, "Look at his booty." I realized then that I was the subject of their conversation. I stopped in my tracks, not bothering to turn around, and they promptly burst into a chorus of embarrassed laughter before scattering like startled pigeons. Fast forward to 2017, I resembled a poster child for About Schmidt. But hey, I had my moment in the sun once upon a time. Story 3. Oh lord, before I had mammoplasty, I was a timid 34H cup teaching assistant at a high school. Surprisingly, most of the comments I heard came from the girls, while the guys mainly just stared. Anyway, the worst and certainly weirdest incident was when I was in homeroom, and I pretended not to hear a group of girls spreading a rumor about me engaging in inappropriate activities with boys at school. It was really surprising. I found it particularly amusing how they assumed that my chest worked in the same way as they might have seen in adult videos. For those of you wondering how big a 34H is, well, it is very big. Each one was approximately the size of my head. I've experienced some back pain, but the most challenging part was how it made exercise, especially running, very uncomfortable. My quality of life has greatly improved with chest reduction, although it did cost me a 2-year relationship. But looking back, I've just dodged a bullet there. Story 4. Former English teacher here. When I was a student teacher, I carpooled with another guy, a Spanish student teacher. We both went on to graduate and taught for a while before leaving the profession for different reasons, but I remember kids talking about him. Yeah, I'd have to admit he was a good-looking guy. So when we co-taught a class and introduced ourselves to the 7th grade English class, it was my class first and Spanish was next period, it got quickly out of hand. I'm Mr. Smith, and this is Mr. Spanish teacher. We're from local college of blah blah, and we'll be here for the next few months as your student teachers. The co-teacher was just watching from the back. I like video games, books, movies, and cooking. Then my buddy said some stuff about himself. Do you guys have any questions for us? All the boys raised their hand to ask what my favorite video game was. All the girls raised their hands to ask, does he have a girlfriend? How many push-ups can he do? How do you grow your beard to look so nice? At that point, the co-teacher stepped in. Spanish teacher and I had a beer after school and had a good laugh about that day. Man, those girls really got bitten by the Spanish fly. Story 5. I was a student with a very attractive teacher. She was maybe 25 or so when I was a freshman, and all the guys in my grade talked about her constantly. She always kept the door to her classroom locked during lunch, and one day, 2 of my friends and I were waiting outside for her to unlock it. I was waiting there because I was bored, but my friends were talking about her in a way that made me uncomfortable. This conversation took place about 10 years ago, but here's how it went. Wow, Miss Dazzling is so beautiful. I know, right? Seriously, she's the hottest teacher in school. Yeah, man. No, but seriously, if she was here right now, I'd try to get close to her and… My friend then proceeded to mime what he thought of by literally slapping the door while we stood there. I was about 3 feet away and not really sure how to react. I didn't know whether to smile and play along or be horrified. As he slapped the door a 4th or 5th time, our hot teacher actually opened the door from the inside. She looked at all 3 of us and said, "You boys need to learn to keep your voices down." And then we just went in and sat down. All in all, it wasn't a bad outcome, but I still wonder what was really going on inside her mind back then. Story 6. I don't consider myself particularly attractive, but in my 3rd year of teaching, I remember running late to my 8th period class on the first day of school. I'm pretty short, so I tend to blend in with the students. On this particular day, I was wearing black pants and a blue sweater, so I blended in even more. The 30-second alarm buzzed and everyone scrambled to get to their classrooms. I wasn't in a rush because I knew that one of the teaching assistants would be there with the students. I was about 50 feet away from my classroom when I heard 2 8th graders say, "Wow, girl, you're hot. And what's your name, babe?" I didn't think too much of it at first because I figured they would be in a classroom before I could turn around. But then I heard, "Whoa, ma'am, you got a nice bum." I bet you have a pretty face." I turned around, I was right in front of my door, and one of them said, "Finally, what's your name?" I responded, "Are you going in this classroom?" When they both nodded, I signaled for them to come in. Once they were inside, I walked in, set my books down on my desk, and introduced myself. The look of pure horror in their faces was priceless. They got a referral for pestering me, and when they spoke to the counselor, they begged to change classes. I only saw them once or twice after that. Story 7. I'm a young male middle school teacher, and it's surprising how many students seem to have a bit of a crush on me. There's this new trend where they spill each other's secrets and go, "Ooh, exposed." I mean, how on earth did snitching become so popular now? Anyway, I always end up being the guy who hears that someone has a crush on me. Sometimes the girls will drop by to leave their sports gear, instruments, or whatever in the classroom, and they often bring their friends along. When they leave, I can't help but hear hushed comments like, "I wish she was my teacher." Here are my top 3 funniest experiences. One day, a girl came in during lunch and said, "Mister, I like you." Knowing well what she meant, I tried to play it cool and responded as casually as possible. "I like you too. You're a great student." But she didn't back down, saying, "No, I really like you." Her determination caught me off guard. Number 2, towards the end of the school year, another student asked if we could take a picture together. I agreed, and on the last day, she gave me a printed copy of the photo with her Instagram handle on the back, along with a message about how cute I was. Number 3, then there was the time a girl found my Facebook and set my profile picture as the background on her phone. I promptly deleted my Facebook after that. If only I could get that kind of attention from girls my own age. Dude, this guy's been served with all those thirst traps. He's practically drowning in them. Story 8. I'm not what you'd call a head-turner, and I hadn't really noticed much until one day in a college lab. I casually asked the class, "Are there any questions?" Suddenly, this older student who was about my age raised his hand and blurted out in front of the whole class, "Yeah, will you go out with me?" Well, that was a clue. My sister, who was also a teacher, has had their fair share of proposals, this time from kids. Among the many personal questions, one student once asked her, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And then to her surprise, a student called her honey. It's really funny because they're just kids. She told me that her students were nothing like the unruly little monsters or pre-dragons we might encounter in some stories. The way she teaches is quite personal and special by necessity. It's not uncommon for a student to develop a little crush on the teacher, but they are good kids. Story 9. I teach junior and senior high school as a substitute teacher. I graduated a year ago, so I haven't landed a full-time job yet. I've had several students write inappropriate comments on my formal evaluations given out on the last day of my final student teaching practicum, such as, "I want to be with Miss Teacup. Miss Teacup is hot and cute," and "I want to get lucky with you." I also had a 9th grade student taller than me who blocked me from leaving the doorway when he repeatedly asked for a hug. On another occasion, a student slapped my booty. I didn't know how to handle it. Teaching is fun, or not. Story 10. It's fairly normal and common for kids or young adults to find older authority figures attractive, but it can get creepy if it gets too close. Me? I had a young teenage boy get a little too casual and familiar with me when he was emailing me over time. Students can do this if they need to, but he ended up sending me a picture of an anime character who had the same hair color as me, wearing a small bikini. He commented that he liked the anime series she was from because he thought I looked a lot like her. The brakes got to be slammed right then and there. So sorry for that boy. May he find peace in the arms of his anime waifus in Baka heaven. Hey, if you're still watching, you're probably the type of person who secretly has a crush on their teacher. No worries, your secret's safe with me. Just give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Story 11. I teach 7th grade, so I've seen it all. Once, a boy came back from the book fair with a set of bouncy balls and proudly asked if I wanted to touch his balls. Another time, a boy got down on one knee and asked me to the Valentine's dance with a note and a Nestle Crunch bar taped to it. I told him I'd be there as a chaperone, and he said, "Close enough." So yeah, it worked out for everyone. Story 12. I wouldn't say I'm a looker, but as a teaching assistant in college, I get my fair share of flirty attention from girls who are hoping for a boost to their grades. Some are more subtle than others, and then there are the ones who come to office hours right before the final exam wearing push-ups and tiny shorts, as if that's going to work. Once I subbed for my buddy's class, and one of the girls who sat in the centermost seat in the front row gave me the goo-goo eyes the entire hour. It was a bit disturbing. But the most inappropriate thing I've overheard someone say about me wasn't about anything intimate, but rather about my military service. They were spreading false rumors about me. It was pretty messed up. Story 13. I'm not a teacher, but my friend is. He teaches special education math. One day after class, he found a note left on the floor. It was written by an 8th grade girl he taught, and it read, "My math teacher is hot, and he has a big booty. Double bonus. I guess she likes them big, and she cannot lie." I also had a freshly out of college gym teacher who every girl at my school was crazy about. They're not subtle about it either. They pretty much know that he gets all the girls swooning. The girls basically tell their other teachers, "I'd be the ham in that sandwich." Yeah, duh, nobody really cares. Story 14. A girl was suspended for taking and sending Snapchat photos of me whenever I was helping a student in front of her. Another girl saw it and told me, saying she wasn't happy with me being disrespected, which was nice. And when I was teaching English as a second language, a teenage girl said, "I want to meet you," with a stuttered M. I jokingly asked with a laugh, "You want to eat me?" She stared me dead in the eye and said, "Yes." Awkward. Either that girl has very poor English or she's dead serious about eating him. I'm not sure which is worse. Story 15. Not a teacher yet, but our high school band had a student teacher who was definitely the object of many a girl's desire. Then again, I probably would have been head over heels for him too. Yeah, we had a student teacher who practically all the girls fawned over. He helped out with PE and the girls would try to get out of exercising or whatever. I was just about the only one who didn't make a big fuss over him because I was more interested in improving my golf game, which he also helped coach. He would take me aside during PE to talk about clubs, scores, and courses. I was totally oblivious to him flirting with me and just thought the other girls were mad because I had something in common with him that they didn't. It wasn't until after I graduated from high school and saw him in town that he told me he had a crush on me. Looking back at my high school years, I was pretty clueless about a lot of things. Story 16. I'm not bad, and I'm frequently the youngest female teacher my students have ever had. I teach middle school. It's funny, the boys who actually have a crush on me are super obvious about it, but they just act embarrassed and think they're hiding it well. Well, no. The most inappropriate comments have gotten to my face are, "Come to a motel with me." "What kind of position do you like?" And just a straightforward, "Do it with me." All those several times, both in English and Japanese. I shut those down real quick. As for overheard comments, mostly they just talk about my chest. Story 17. On my first day as a middle school intern, one of my students told his friends, "Miss Gorgeous is mine." I walked behind his seat right when he said it, and he nearly died of embarrassment as he realized that I had heard him. Another student told me that my intelligence was hot. That was one of those moments where you look for another adult to verify for any potential future record, that you weren't just hitting on that particular student. All of these reminded me of a time back in school when I had a beautiful English 101 teacher. She was obsessed with Van Halen. One day she was going to give out extra credit if someone could guess her favorite song. I didn't think of Hot for Teacher until after class. No one did. I still think about it all the time. Story 18. French teacher here. Teenagers are just constantly inappropriate and need very little encouragement. I've been asked to prom, had boys tell other teachers that they think I'm attractive, and had a parent accusingly tell me that she now understood why her son loved French, which I took to mean that my creative teaching methods had inspired him. I didn't mind, though, because it meant that I had a class with 12 previously disinterested boys who came back for extra homework and revision classes every lunchtime and after school. Every one of those boys with loads of energy eventually passed. Her aura might have turned them all into simps like Pepe Le Pew, but hey, at least it helped them do well in class. Story 19. I used to teach high school math in New York, and a good college buddy of mine taught high school chemistry in Florida for a few years. He's a pretty good-looking guy, and we used to swap stories. But he has one story that beats all of mine. On Valentine's Day after school, he went back to his science classroom and found a card on his desk. Inside it said, "I want to have passionate love with you on this table." There was also a small bag of snow inside the card. Of course, he didn't do anything with it. He went straight to the principal's office and gave him everything. Story 20. I've got 2 stories for you. The first one's about my friend, who's a bit awkward. He used to casually drop "I love you" on an attractive teacher. Maybe once or twice a week. At the beginning, she'd respond with something like, "What? Why? Stop it." But as time passed, her reactions became less noticeable. Then during the last week of school, she said it back to him, and his face lit up like you wouldn't believe. There is another story where a male student and a female teacher met in school and eventually tied the knot. Love found its way into the classroom. Story 21. I'm a student teacher, and on my first week, a student asked me if I was in the 8th grade. This doesn't make me feel attractive, but it does make me feel more approachable to my middle school students. I work with kids with special needs, and I knew that one of the boys had hit puberty when he came over to me, gently kissed my forearm, and then giggled. This led to a new rule: no kissing the teachers. It was kind of cute, though. He's not usually affectionate. That's probably the very day when that kid lost interest in Legos. Story 22. My sister is a beautiful and really kind 24-year-old 7th grade teacher, so it's definitely happened to her a lot. Last semester, she started noticing things like her sports chest rest going missing from her gym bag, but she thought it must just be her being careless. About a week later, her boyfriend, who was also a teacher, noticed her light on and went to check on her. He found one of her students with his belt unbuckled, standing in front of her pair of heels that he had rummaged through her desk drawer to find. What made it creepier is that my sister's feet stank. I lived with her for 18 years, and I can tell you that her feet smelled like mayonnaise and tuna broiling in the summer sun. I still don't understand the kind of desperation. Story 23. I'm not a teacher, but I think this is still relevant. My high school program had an annual tradition of end-of-year skits where we roasted our teachers for their quirks. The teachers were cool with us advanced program students who loved learning, so we didn't hold back. One year we had a new teacher who was smoking hot. We couldn't think of anything to make fun of her about. All we could do was joke about how nice she was and make meta jokes about how hard it was to make fun of her. One group came up with a good line for her. In an accent, imitating the character playfully, he was Asian, this one guy looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Are you sure you're a teacher? Because you're a real knockout." The room burst into laughter and all the guys agreed with him. The teacher turned beet red and her face never truly stopped blushing after that, but she was a great teacher. Story 24. I was a building substitute at a high school last year. One girl in particular stands out in my mind. She would always find out where I was subbing for the day and drop by a few times. One day, after I passed her in the hallway and said good morning, I overheard her say very loudly, "My God, he's so hot." I ignored her and kept walking. Another time she came to talk to me between classes, and I told her to get going before she was late. She walked to the door, stopped, and said, "By the way, Mr. Good-Looking, no fuss, but you have a nice booty." Then she walked away. I made sure to keep my distance after that. Story 25. I had one of my high-functioning autistic students tell me point blank that all the moms call me Mr. Hottie. Keep in mind that this was in the middle of a lesson on the French Revolution, and I had just asked a question about the bourgeoisie. He raised his hand and told the class about that gem. Dude, this teacher must be really attractive to cause such a revolution in those parents' pants. Hey guys, if you're still with me, I bet you'll love therapists. What's a common problem people have? Story 3 left me speechless. I can't wait to share it with you.